Guys, this hasn't happened in years. Today, runway 31 is the departure runway here at LaGuardia Airport, and I'm all set to fly on it. Let's go.
I mean, it happens all the time. Runway 31 is commonly used as the departure runway, but it never happens to me when I'm flying. I get to land on runway 31 often, but it just never happens that runway 31 is the departure runway when I'm a ticket holder. With all of my flights from LaGuardia, this is the second time for me in the last 7 years using runway 31 as the departure runway. Hard to believe.
All right, I can't wait to just get on the other side. That's TSA behind me. I'm going through, and that brings me closer to runway 31. All right, I'm at my usual stop post TSA, and I've got a great view of the operation here at LaGuardia Airport. Runway 31 is right behind me. I'm getting closer and closer. Now, once a plane, of course, lands on runway 22 and no one's on short final, the tower will issue takeoff clearance to an aircraft on runway 31. That is exactly what I'm watching from this vantage point right here.
Here's the view out the giant window after TSA. Runway 31 is the closest runway to the Delta terminal, which means a short taxi to the runway today. Runway 22 is landing runway and runway 31 is the departure runway because both runway headings favor a headwind component. I've landed on runway 22 more times than I can count, but this whole runway 31 thing is giving me valid excitement. Once a plane lands on runway 22, the tower issues takeoff clearance to a plane in runway 31, providing that there's no subsequent arrival within around a 2-mile final. There's a Delta A321 about to touch down on runway 22. Once that plane lands, the Delta A321 in position on runway 31 gets clearance for takeoff from the tower. Clearance was granted because the next arrival is more than 2 miles out to runway 22. As we watch this plane accelerate for takeoff, we can look up and see over the Bronx that the next plane is at a safe distance before reaching the intersection of the two runways. This pattern repeats over and over again. There's a neat corporate jet on a roll. And as we gaze up, we can see the next plane on final approach to runway 22. I love this coordination. Let's go for a walk to the west for a different kind of view.
Now, behind me is a great view of the operation here at LaGuardia Airport. I've got a really good view of runway 31, and I can also see arrivals to runway 22 in the distance. Now, aircraft that are coming into runway 22 are making left traffic because they are avoiding the airspace that runway 31 departures take off on. So, I want to be able to see my aircraft on its left downwind leg to runway 22. So what I'm about to do now is I'm going to go over to the other window on the other side of the terminal, and over here I should be able to see that aircraft on its left turn to runway 22.
This is the Delta A321 that will be taking me to Palm Beach today. It's under the control of New York Approach Control at 4,000 feet on a 70-degree heading, which is a setup for a left downwind and eventual left base for runway 22. If I was on that flight, I would have been seated on the left side, not just for the Manhattan view, but the amazing view of LaGuardia, where I am now.
That's it, right there. All right, I was just on this side, and now I'm going back over to this side to see my aircraft land. An American 737 has just received takeoff clearance on runway 31. That aircraft is going to take off right before my A321 touches down on runway 22.
The American 737 is our arrivals traffic. It's rolling on runway 31, and it will be clear of the intersection by the time my plane reaches it on runway 22. Separation between the two aircraft is more than sufficient here. Let's take a moment and watch my A321 fly on final approach to runway 22. Come on, door, open.
I came to the outdoor deck to look at my aircraft passing by, but it's just not open today.
As you can see, this was filmed on a cold winter day and the outdoor deck was closed, so I found a window to watch my A321 taxi to the gate. By the way, this plane just came in from Fort Lauderdale. It's headed to the 80s concourse, so let's go there. Let's get on board Delta 2460.
Getting closer to runway 31.
Sitting on the left-hand side of the plane today is strategic with runway 31 as the departure runway. You see, we need to get to the white intersection as our initial departure fix. As I go to Florida a lot, white is typical for me, but since we're taking off on runway 31 today, this increases the chances of flying lower near Manhattan than normal. The runway 31 climb can be compared to the runway 4 climb. If we were to take off on runway 4, we turn left to the north over the Bronx, followed by radar vectors to the west and south toward white. This is known as the Bronx climb. The unnamed climb off of runway 31 calls for a right turn over the Bronx to head to the north or northwest, but it keeps us a bit west of the path of the Bronx climb, so we could potentially be lower once we get our radar vectors to the west and south. The idea is to get the turn to the south around the Hudson so that we can see Manhattan on the left side of the plane. Let's see what happens today. We're fully boarded, so it's time for pushback onto the ramp between the 80s and 90s gates. Could it be? We're pushing back ahead of those two regional jets that we see out there? I wasn't expecting us to push back right now, but this is the new LaGuardia, and it's not exactly what you think. You see, the Embraer 170 is in its own lane, lane 18, which parallels our pushback lane, so it won't conflict with us, and we'll see it pass by us soon, and the CRJ 900, believe it or not, will taxi out before we do. You see, we're being pushed back in an odd way. Rather than push our tail deeper into the ramp so our nose faces outward, we're being pushed outwards backwards, and once we get to the end of the ramp, we'll turn so that we're eventually positioned between the end of the concourse we left from and the taxiway system to a spot called 19 Bravo. The CRJ 900 was on lane 17, which we're on now, and once we move to spot 19 Bravo, we'll be clear of lane 17 so the CRJ 900 can taxi out ahead of us. So even though it initially looked like we were going to get out ahead of the two regional jets, the fact is that both of them are going to get out before us. It makes sense since they both pushed back before we did, despite our gate being closer to the taxiways. There goes the Embraer 170 that we saw moments ago. It's on lane 18. A scenario like this was not possible at the old B, C, and D terminals at LaGuardia, where there was only room for one plane at a time between each concourse. Yes, this new ramp area is very, very efficient. At Terminal B, you can even taxi around two satellite concourses connected to the main terminal by bridges. It's a great design, and I've said it in many videos. The problem is, it just doesn't fix the issues of congestion on the taxiways or the airspace. Today is not a bad day, but on days where there's irregular operations, the congestion on the taxiway systems can put a real strain on the airport. Most people see LaGuardia as the new LaGuardia, but we're entering a place that remains the same as it was for decades, the taxiways and the runways. Once we get to our final position for tug removal and engine start, we'll call ground control for taxi clearance, but despite runway 31 being right there, we can't just taxi to the runway and take off. We'll have to taxi away from the runway in the opposite direction to join the back of the line of planes ahead of us that will take off first. This includes the two Delta regional jets that pushed back before us. Now, it's a normal day at LaGuardia, which means that there will be some traffic ahead of us, but not enough to cause any delays. We pushed back right on time. Okay, we're ready to taxi here from spot 19 Bravo. A look back reveals some of the aircraft that are already in line. We'll have to get behind these aircraft in order to go. We're all set to go. Our engines have been started because the tug has been removed, and everything is ready inside the cockpit for taxi. The tower will tell us to follow that CRJ 900 that we saw earlier as it started to move out of the ramp. And then we'll turn to the left on taxiway Alpha and hold short of Lima.
Ground Delta 2460, we're at 19 Bravo with 2 lanes.
Delta 2460, look at the ground on runway 31. At Alpha, follow the Delta CRJ9 from your right and then taxi via Alpha, short of Lima.
All right, Alpha, short of Lima, the CRJ passes for Delta 2460 will be on now.
There goes the CRJ 900 joining taxiway Alpha, so we can now follow it by making a left turn onto taxiway Alpha and then head west until Lima, which will be 3 taxiways down. As we turn, look out for the line of planes that we need to follow for takeoff. That's runway 31 out there. It's so close, yet at a distance because of the line. The airplanes that are waiting to take off are on taxiway Bravo. Bravo is being used in the eastbound direction to get to runway 31, and taxiway Alpha for us will be used as the way to get to taxiway Bravo once we get to the end of the line. Taxiway Alpha can also be used for arrivals from runway 22 to get to Terminal C, so the controller must be able to coordinate departures like us with arrivals, but at this time there are no planes arriving to Terminal C, and he was able to get 2 departing flights out on taxiway Alpha. As we turn, look down at the pavement, and you can see the markings for spot 19 Bravo, which is where we just came from. Our pilot is moving the plane slowly, and there's actually a bit of space between us and the CRJ 900, but that's fine. It's a tight U-turn from spot 19 Bravo to taxiway Alpha. The CRJ 900 had it much easier leaving the Delta ramp. For him, it was just a turn to the left. For me, for now, where I am, I could be heading to runway 4 or runway 13 or even runway 22, all based on the direction of travel. But it's going to be a rarity for me, as we'll eventually need to make a U-turn and depart on runway 31. As we pass by lane 16, take a look at the planes parked at the Delta terminal. One of them is Delta's famous Thank You A321. That plane has giant red thank you letters on its fuselage, and it's been featured many times on my channel, just as recently as 2 videos ago. We're going to continue past the C terminal territory into B terminal territory to get to the back of the line, but the controller is about to come back with us for updated instructions. He's going to tell us to continue on Alpha, but once we reach taxiway Lima, we should follow United. This means a U-turn to Bravo at Lima behind United Airlines instead of continuing to follow the CRJ 900. What the controller is doing here is sequencing. You see, the CRJ 900 may be taking a similar or exact route as us for the initial portion of the flight, so to increase spacing between us and the CRJ 900, the controller is inserting the United flight between us. That flight is likely going in a different direction than we are today.
2460, continue to be Alpha, then at Lima, follow United.
All right, 2460, we'll continue on Alpha at Lima, follow the United for Delta 2460.
Now the tower tells United to follow the CRJ that we were following.
United 2334, runway 31, follow the Delta CRJ 9 just off your left, Alpha Kilo Bravo.
Alpha Kilo Bravo after the CRJ, United 2334.
If you think about United's operation from LaGuardia, it makes sense to put United in front of us. You see, mainline United only flies to its hubs of Chicago, Denver, and Houston from LaGuardia. Those destinations are to the west. We're headed to Florida, to the south. Departures to the west will not use the same departure fixes as a flight to Florida, like us. By the way, that CRJ 900 there is not the same one from before, as it's about to leave the ramp from spot number 8. He'll call ground control as we make our U-turn on Lima from Alpha to Bravo. This plane will actually not be going behind us. The controller will tell him to turn left on Alpha, which will be behind us, but instead of turning right onto Lima like us to join Bravo, he'll be told to turn right on the next taxiway for the U-turn, Juliet. As we turn, you'll see that holding short of Lima at Bravo is an American Embraer on Bravo. The CRJ 900, using the call sign Endeavor, will go behind the American Embraer. It's all about sequencing.
Ground Endeavor 4923, lane 8 with Juliet ready, taxi.
4923, look at the ground, runway 31, taxi via left turn Alpha, Juliet Bravo.
Left Alpha, Juliet Bravo to runway 31, Endeavor 4923.
So the sequence has been set up. Based on the transmissions we heard, take note of the following airplanes we'll see when we're about to enter the runway. Before we take off, we'll see 2 planes take off that we know of. First, the Delta CRJ 900 that we followed initially when we left the ramp, followed by a United flight. Once United rolls down the runway, we'll enter the runway, and behind us, we'll see the American Embraer, followed by the other Delta CRJ 900. For now, all we have to do is follow the conga line ahead of us to runway 31. The ground controller will soon hand us off to the tower controller, but for now, I get to watch planes take off on runway 31, with arrivals landing on runway 22 in the distance.
Delta 2460, number 9, information, Juliet on the tower.
Number 9, 2460 over tower. Good day.
We're now number 3 for takeoff, and there's that CRJ 900 that taxied out ahead of us. The intersection is clear, so the tower will issue a takeoff clearance and then tell United to line up and wait on runway 31.
5380, traffic 2 mile, final 22 is 2701, runway 31, clear for takeoff.
Runway 31, clear for takeoff, Endeavor 5380.
That's 2334, Gordy Tower 31, line up and wait, traffic will land 22.
Line up and wait, 31 United 2334.
There's traffic on a 2-mile final for runway 22, so Endeavor rolls out before that traffic lands. We'll see United go onto the runway in a moment. In the following transmissions, American will check in with the tower for landing clearance, and Endeavor will get handed off to departure control. The plane on final lands, so United will get takeoff clearance, and we'll be told to line up and wait. The plane that landed on runway 22 will be told to clear the runway, and another Endeavor plane will check in with the tower for landing clearance.
Tower American 2922 is with you for the last runway 22.
American 2922, the way tower, fund and bridge, traffic 3 out, 22, clear to land with 26012, traffic home position 31, gain loss of 10 knots down the final by CRJ.
Clear land runway 22, American 2922.
5380, contact near departure, see you.
Departure Denver 5380, good day.
At 2334, traffic 2 mile final 22 is 26012, runway 31, clear for takeoff.
Clear for takeoff 31, United 2334.
Delta 2460, go to runway 31, line up and wait, traffic will land runway 22.
31, line up and wait, Delta 2460.
Correct 2749, left Delta, left Bravo, ground's on point 7. Any wind shear on the final?
Delta Bravo, yeah, there was some wind shear in the final, yeah. Plus minus 10, I believe. That's what I said for you.
Plus minus 10, thank you. Grab point 7.
Composite.
LaGuardia Tower, Denver 4903, ILS 22.
493, LaGuardia Tower, solid traffic 4.5 altitude, 2 clear to land with 26012, traffic to hold position runway 31, gain loss 10, knocked down the final by 737.
22, clear to land, Denver 4903.
The left side gives me a great view down the 7,000-foot long runway. We won't get takeoff clearance until the next plane lands on runway 22. As we turn around, we're able to see the two airplanes behind us, the American Embraer 170 that we saw waiting for us to get ahead, and the Delta CRJ 900 that we saw getting ready to pull out of the ramp. By this point, the United 737 is airborne and told to contact departure control.
United 2334, contact near departure, see ya.
Switch, have a good day, United 2334.
Now, we wait takeoff clearance once the next plane lands. We'll also hear the next plane get told to line up and wait, and the plane that landed will be told to clear runway 22. It's all coming soon.
Delta 2460, next arrival 2 mile final 22 with 270 at 12, runway 31, clear for takeoff.
Clear for takeoff 31, Delta 2460.
Clear got 4453, go to runway 31, line up and wait, traffic will land runway 22.
31, line wait, break here, 4453.
We got 5758, 2 left turns, ground's on point 7.
2 left turns, on point 7, forget the 7.
As we climb, the tower controller hands us off to the TRACON controller out in Long Island.
Delta 2460, contact near departure.
Departure, good day, Delta 2460.
We climb on our assigned heading. The heading was assigned to us electronically, so I don't have the official number, but it looks like we're turning right to around 340 degrees or so. The right turn keeps us away from Teterboro, which would have been straight ahead. It also allows us to gain some altitude so we can eventually fly over flights bound to both Teterboro and Newark. Let's check in with the departure controller as we climb to our initial assigned altitude of 5,000 feet.
Departure, Delta 2460, 2,000 per 5,000.
2460, good evening, radar contact, climb and maintain 6,000.
6,000, Delta 2460.
We're clear to 6,000 feet due to traffic at 7,000 feet. Nice Manhattan view there. We're west of where we would be on the Bronx climb, so I'm liking this. I'm just hoping for a left turn really soon to around 230 degrees so we can get closer to Manhattan. The turn will come. It's just a question of when, based upon how many planes there are in the area that are headed the same direction that we are toward the white intersection, our initial departure fix. In the following transmissions, you'll hear the United plane that took off ahead of us getting a turn to the northwest, so it's not a factor for us, and you'll also hear the aircraft that's passing through the airspace climbing to 7,000 feet, which is why we were cleared to 6,000.
United 2334, turn left 310.
Left 310, 2334. And about Papa Whiskey's on a 260 heading at a 5,000 for 7,000.
5 Papa Whiskey near, fire shortly.
We're climbing over the western Bronx, and we're looking at upper Manhattan between the Harlem and Hudson Rivers. It's almost time for our turn to the south, but first, the airplane that was behind us is now airborne and about to check in with departure control.
Air departure, good evening, Brickyard 4453, 1.2 for 5,000, heading 355.
Brickyard 4453, good evening, radar contact, climb and maintain 6,000.
The 6,000, Brickyard 4453.
We're looking at the George Washington Bridge with New Jersey on the other side, and it's now time for the controller to turn us.
Delta 2460, turn left 230, climb and maintain 8,000.
230, 8,000, Delta 2460.
I would have liked this turn a little bit earlier because we won't be able to complete this turn until we're well into New Jersey, and I see clouds up ahead. We've been cleared at 8,000 feet, and the clouds look lower than that. The current controller will ultimately clear us to 12,000 feet in his airspace before being handed off to the next controller. Our turn to the southwest is all based upon demand to the white intersection, and what we're experiencing now is pretty normal. Many airports share white as their initial departure fix.
As a matter of fact, the next airplane that you're going to hear, JetBlue, just took off from Westchester County Airport and is going to be heading to the White intersection as well. This aircraft is going to have to be spaced far behind us. It also happens to be going to the same destination as us.
New York, good afternoon, JetBlue 1567 on 3.8 for 7,000, 270 on heading.
JetBlue 1567, good evening, climb and maintain 9,000.
Up to 9,000, JetBlue 1567.
As for us, we're now leaving this controller's airspace, so he's going to climb us to the max allowed altitude in this airspace, 12,000 feet, and hand us off to the next departure controller who's located in the same facility.
2460, climb and maintain 12,000 and contact 12475, connect.
2475 up to 12,000, no 2460, good day.
What a shame that there's clouds at this point. We are set up for a perfect view of Manhattan on the left-hand side of the airplane. In any case, it's time to check in with the next departure controller.
Hello, New York, Delta 2460 out of 6.5 for 12,000.
Delta 2460, New York departure, roger.
We're climbing out of 6,500 feet for 12,000 feet, and the controller just said roger, so we just keep doing what we're doing. Up ahead, a United flight from Newark is getting cleared to White.
United 1222, turn right direct to White.
Direct White, 1222.
So we know we won't get clearance right away to White because there's a United flight going there right now. Let's wait a bit and listen in to other communications on this frequency as we struggle to see Manhattan below.
11897, United 1222.
Delta 738 Heavy, proceed direct to Robbinsville.
Direct to Robbinsville, Delta 738 Heavy.
Delta 2321, increase speed to 300 knots. Contact New York Center, 118.907.
1897, 300 knots, Delta 2321, stay.
Breaker 3566, traffic 2 o'clock in 15 miles, northeastbound, 7500 for 7000, Airbus.
We're at the IMC right now, Breaker 3566.
JetBlue 2825, maintain 290 knots or greater.
Maintain 290 knots or greater, JetBlue 2825.
Delta 738 Heavy, maintain 290 knots.
290 knots, Delta 738 Heavy. For Delta 2321, 1897, was that it?
Affirmative, 118907.
That's the beacon, 4767, 65, climb in 11,000.
Breaker 4767, New York departure, roger.
Okay, we're coming up on Lower Manhattan off the left side right now, and there's enough space between us and the United flight that's headed to White ahead, so the controller is going to proceed us directly to White now.
Delta 2460, proceed direct to White.
Directly to White, Delta 2460.
Once we're over White, we can proceed on course for the en route phase of flight. The controller will eventually clear us up to 17,000 feet, then we'll be handed off to the New York Air Route Traffic Control Center as we proceed on course to the south. If you haven't done so, check out the video I posted before this one, where my flight took off from the Westchester County Airport with White as the initial departure fix. We're in a similar position now to where we were in that video after takeoff. In that video, there were no clouds and the view was better than today. Also, in that video, runway 13 was the departure runway at LaGuardia, while runway 22 was the arrival runway. Runway 13 departures took off toward the eastern airspace of LaGuardia. Today, we use runway 31 for takeoff and use airspace to the west of LaGuardia to climb. Unlike the last video, arrivals to runway 22 made left traffic east of LaGuardia to turn around and land, while in that video, aircraft made right traffic west of LaGuardia to turn around and land on runway 22. Because of that, I was able to see aircraft fly northbound on the downwind leg and right base to runway 22 because it was close to us. With the clouds and the fact that arrivals to LaGuardia from the south pass east of the airport, it's a bit more difficult to see them today, but I'm not giving up. But in order to see them more clearly, we need to be a little bit further south as those planes approach New York City near Coney Island before moving further to the east over Queens. There's one down there. It's an American A321 flying from Miami to LaGuardia. Here's a map on the seat back in front of me showing our path off of runway 31 and our route to the south toward White. The clouds are now dissipating here over New Jersey, so I'm looking for familiar sights. There goes Atlantic City, and what stands out on today's flight is the bright sunlight reflecting off the Borgata Hotel and Casino. You can see that spot from a long distance away. Down there is the Atlantic City Airport, and here's the south tip of New Jersey. We're looking down at Rehoboth Beach, Delaware down there, and above it is a JetBlue A320 flying from Fort Lauderdale to Westchester. Back down below, it's the 17.6-mile-long Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel, and that moving dot down there is a Breeze A220 from Orlando to Norfolk. As we proceed further south, we see Myrtle Beach as well as the Myrtle Beach Airport. It's getting dark out there, and we're following the coastline southbound for a night approach to Palm Beach's runway 10 left.
For the approach, we'll head out over the ocean for just a few miles before turning inland to the west. Once we're significantly inland, we'll turn left to the south on a left base leg, then make a final left turn to join the runway 10 left final approach course. Here, we've already checked in with Palm Beach Approach Control and are following the standard arrival procedure for flights from the north that are bound for PBI. We approach the area north of the airport on a southwestern heading before turning to the west while north of the airport. Those turns are simply made by following the published arrival route. We won't get a clearance to turn our left base leg until we're significantly inland, and the position at which we turn left has to do with how many aircraft there are in front of us. Here comes our turn to the west after flying in a southwestern direction. The Palm Beach Airport is off to our left, but it's still going to be around another 10 minutes or so before we're on the ground. Tonight is busy. Rather than show you the entire approach, I'm going to move forward to the point where the controller begins to turn us back to the left for a left base leg. In the next transmission, we've moved significantly inland to the west, and the controller is going to have us turn to the south to 190 degrees, and he'll tell us to descend to 3,000 feet.
Delta 2460, turn left heading 190 to set and maintain 3,000.
190, 3,000, Delta 2460.
190 degrees puts us on an approximate right angle to the final approach course. 190 degrees is not a good heading to intercept the localizer or straight-in final approach course, so the controller will eventually have us turn further to the left so our intercept angle can be a bit more gradual and we don't overshoot the final approach course. The runway heading is approximately 100 degrees due to the runway nomenclature of 10 left. I'll move forward to the next turn. The controller will assign a 130-degree intercept heading, but the pilot will report the airport in sight and will get cleared for a visual approach to runway 10 left. We'll be given a speed restriction and a handoff to the tower.
Delta 2460, turn left heading 130, intercept the localizer, field is southwest, 9 to 10 o'clock and 12 miles.
130, intercept the road, field
2460, thanks. Good, visual approach, runway 10 left, 170 till 5 miles final.
170 till 5 left, visual.
Delta 2460, thanks. Contact the tower, 190.1.
All we need to do is line up with the runway and land. Let's check in with the Palm Beach Tower. Listen very carefully to a cluster of communications here.
Tower Delta 2460,
Delta 2460, Palm Beach Tower, runway 10 left, continue, traffic holding in position. Southwest 3063, turn left heading 070, maintain 4,000, runway 10 left, clear for takeoff.
Left turn heading 070, comment 4,000, runway 10 left, cover takeoff service 3063.
JetBlue 1567, runway 10 left, clear to land.
Clear land 10 left, JetBlue 1567.
Now, that was interesting. We didn't get clearance to land. The tower told Southwest to take off, then he told JetBlue 1567 that he's clear to land. JetBlue 1567. Doesn't that call sign sound familiar to you? It should. Go back to the 20-minute mark of this video. We were on the LaGuardia departure frequency, turning to a heading of 230 degrees, when we heard JetBlue 1567 check in behind us as it took off from Westchester County Airport and used LaGuardia's airspace to get to White after us. And it's now landing at Palm Beach, but it's landing ahead of us. Well, it was behind us in the New York City area, so how'd it get in front of us to land? Well, JetBlue 1567 took a more direct route to Florida after White. We took a more curved land route, while JetBlue flew over the ocean after the Carolinas, allowing it to fly in a straight line and beat us. We didn't get clearance to land until we were closer in, since there were several planes ahead of us using our runway for both takeoff and landing. I'll move forward to a point where the tower cleared an American Airlines flight for takeoff on our runway, thus clearing it for us so that we can get cleared to land.
American 2565, turn left heading 070, maintain 4,000, expect to resume the departure, runway 10 left, clear for takeoff.
Alright, left 070, 4,000, clear for takeoff, American 2565.
Delta 2460, runway 10 left, clear to land.
Clear line 10 left, Delta 2460.
American is on a departure roll, and we are cleared to land. Now, as for the landing, just before we touch down, another JetBlue flight will check in with the tower, but the tower will not issue a landing clearance, expecting another JetBlue plane to take off behind us. We'll see that JetBlue departing plane on the ground on the adjacent taxiway, but apparently there's a slight problem with that flight. When the tower asks him if he's ready, he says that he's not ready and he's waiting for a call from the back. Perhaps there are passengers who are out of their seats. We'll also hear the tower tell the American flight that took off ahead of us to contact Palm Beach Departure Control. Once we land, we'll be told to turn left and contact ground control. Let's land.
Tower JetBlue 1761, visual 10 left.
JetBlue 1761, Palm Beach Tower, runway 10 left, continue, traffic will hold in position.
Continue, JetBlue 1761.
American 2565, contact Departure. Good night.
Departure American 2567.
Couple 2009, you going to be ready? You need some time.
Might need about a half a minute. We were expecting a call from the back by now.
Okay, let you know if they give you a call.
Will do.
Delta 2460, turn left Charlie 9, ground point 9. Have a good night.
Charlie 9.9, Delta 2460.
It's our pleasure to welcome you to West Palm Beach, where the local time is 6:53 p.m. Please remain seated with your seatbelt fastened and carry-on items stowed until the aircraft is parked at the gate and the captain has turned off the seatbelt sign. Please be careful when opening overhead bins to avoid injury from items that may have shifted during flight. As you deplane, please remember to take a look around your seat and make sure of everything you brought on board. On behalf of Delta and this New York City-based crew, we've enjoyed having you on board and look forward to seeing you soon. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you. All right, I'm in the terminal here at PBI, and this aircraft's going right back to LaGuardia as Delta 2460. I've taken that flight many times. All right, everybody, I'm going to end the video here at PBI. Thank you so much for joining me, of course, on this flight from LaGuardia Airport. Remember that if you haven't hit that subscribe button below, I invite you to click on the button, hit the like button, and I'll be back again with many more videos just like this. See you at an airport.